Hello everybody, this is the Starving Martian, and it has been a little while since we've done one of these, but we're back with another Mummy review. That's right, this is a action figure from The Mummy, the action figure line put out by Toy Island to coincide with the Brendan Fraser film of the same name back in 1998. So we've looked at two of these before. We've looked at the Cursed Princess, otherwise known as Nox on the Moon, and we didn't like her very much because she has decomposing action, which means she falls apart, but she would not clip back together. I ended up gluing her arms in place. It was a mess. We've also looked at the Severed Mummy with splitting action. His action feature didn't work either. You could split him, but he wouldn't spring back like he's supposed to, but you could push him back together and it didn't interfere with him being a collectible piece. So we liked him a lot more. And now we are looking at this guy here called Decapitated Mummy. Alright, so Decapitated Mummy. Obviously, this represents Imhotep in his earliest stages of resurrection. This would be shortly after he's been brought back from the dead. He's already gotten his eyes and presumably tongue. You can see the eyes in his socket. Well, maybe you can't from this angle. Um, so, so this is actually my favorite look for the mummy. It looks a little more, I don't know if mummy-ish is a word, but we're using it anyway. It looks more like a desecrated corpse. Still got some of his linen wrappings around him. And as I've said before on some of the other reviews, these guys get a little more graphic, a little more gory than he ever did in the movie. So let's get a look at some of his details. Alright, there's his face, really nice face. His lips all rotted off, but there's his brand new eyeballs peeping out at you. You can see his ribs sticking through his chest. His flesh here. Nice job on the bandages. They look old and decrepit and falling apart. Bones peeking through here on his legs. And over on his back, you see some screw holes, which was not generally part of the mummification process. There's his ankle bone down there. Alright, so that's what this guy looks like. Before we get into his action, let's talk about posability. Now, I've got him kind of standing at an odd angle here because he wants to fall over backwards. And now that I've positioned him, he wants to fall over forwards. He just doesn't want to stand. So you can twist and bend his legs here, which you have to get him standing in any sort of position. But once you get him standing, I recommend just leaving him alone. His arms will also turn right here. But again, I got him out a little bit to help him support his weight, so I'm not going to turn his arms. His head turns rather freely as part of the gimmick, which we'll get into in a minute. His jaw kind of opens and closes a little bit, again due to the gimmick. And that's pretty much your standard posability on most of your action figures from this time in the 90s. Stand mummy. Alright, so accessories. He comes with, as many of these mummies do, a sacred canopic jar. This is the one that he comes with. It's got a little pharaoh face on it. Look at a little pharaoh face. Just to contrast, this is the one that the Severed Mummy came with. And they both have the same cross etching on the bottom, which presumably clips onto one of the bases of the play sets. Supposed to collect all 5 jars so you can place them in the playset, just as the mummy needed to collect all 5 to raise his beloved Nox on the Moon. And he also comes with a decapitating tool. That's what it's called. Okay, so let's bring out this decapitating tool. Oh, for crying out, this is so annoying. Just because it happens to be slightly claw-shaped, these little guys will not stay off of it. Would you? I know it's your mask. Thank you. Alright, so here's our decapitating tool. And, yeah, it kind of opens and closes a little bit. And the mummy has little holes on either side of his head. So you could give him an iPod, I suppose. But that's so you can attach the decapitating tool. And so it just snaps into these holes. There you go. Come on. And there he is winning the silly hat competition. Alright, so what we're going to do now is angle our camera up so we can get all of this action in frame. And you simply pull up on the decapitating tool. Ah! There we go. And his head ratchets up on his go-go gadget neck. Now, according to the package and the instructions inside, come on, tool, off, it's supposed to ratchet back down on its own, and it doesn't. This is another case, so far 3 for 3, of the gimmick of the Mummy toys not working properly. Just, I got this fresh from the package, and doesn't work, doesn't ratchet back down. I would also like to point out that this is not, despite what the package tells you, a decapitated mummy. The head is still attached. This is a decapitated mummy. Actually, with the head up like that, it reminds me of this one enemy from some of the Castlevania games. It's like this giant skeleton with like a chicken neck and his arms tucked by his side. Maybe you know what I'm talking about. Those are weird. But, so yeah, so his neck ratchets up and his jaw drops. And then you can kind of wiggle it up and down. But just because the mechanism doesn't work doesn't mean you're stuck with a busted mummy. Just push his noggin back down and you're ready to go. And if you don't have, or you lose, or you don't like your decapitating tool, just grab his head and pull. The decapitating tool is odd to me because it's like nothing that was actually even featured in the movie. I don't recall anyone using one of these. So, let's get some side-by-side mummy comparisons going, shall we? Let's. So here's Decapitated Mummy alongside Severed Mummy. And so this is pretty cool. You can see as the mummy absorbs the flesh and life essence of his victims, he's becoming more and more human, gaining skin and whatnot. So it's nice to have those side by side. And that's actually one really cool thing about the line, is a lot of the toys are just different forms of Imhotep. But, and I remember being a kid, like Batman Returns came out, and I had like 12 Batmen. What are you going to do with 12 Batmen, But for this line, because, there's Imhotep and then there's all the mummies that he raises and everything, you can easily just say one of them is your main guy and the rest of them are his mummy army. Well, so it's perfectly acceptable and well worth it to have multiple mummies on your shelf. So there he is with that guy. Here he is with Cursed Princess. Put her head back on first. And she's cursed never to be able to stand on her own. But you get the basic idea. And they look like a cute couple. Alright, both of those, by the way, have their own reviews. If you want to see more details, just click on my name, Starving Martian, and you'll find a mummy playlist. Alright, and that's about that for the mummy. Let's just go ahead and give you a really quick look at his package before we close. It's almost identical to the package of Anoxina Moon, who we've already looked at her package, so we won't dwell on it too long. But it's got, there we go, that nice shape, like the sarcophagus. Has a picture of our friend the Decapitated Mummy. Rash it up the mummy's head. Be afraid as it retracts back to life. Or be afraid that it never will and you bought a broken toy. And then the rest of the line, as always, pictured on the back. Cost-wise, this guy here cost me about $14 after shipping. That's not a bad price. After that, the mummy figures start to get more expensive. Perhaps the more expensive ones work better. I don't know. But if I ever find a good deal on future mummy toys, I'll be sure to bring them to you. You can find him on Amazon or eBay. I got mine on Amazon. And yeah, I actually recommend this guy. I think he's my favorite of the three so far. Once you get him in a good pose where he'll stand, and just put him on your shelf and have fun. So, guys, this has been the Starving Martian bringing you yet another mummy review. We'll catch up with you another time. Later, guys.